Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Georgiana.
And this is Wholehearted Loving, where we teach you simple tools for self-love and compassion to grow the muscles you need to be with big feelings, triggers, and overwhelming sensations in your body.
Whether you have active challenges in your life or relationships, or whether you're just here to learn to be kinder to yourself, we pull out all the little things that make life feel better, the things that give you a sense of hope and direction.
So if you're too hard on yourself or on others,
if you want to feel real, deep connection in your life and relationships,
even if you want to reprogram your inner critic while you're sleeping,
this is a great place to be.
So welcome, and we hope this episode brings you just the tidbit you needed today.
Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today we're going to be following up from an episode a couple of weeks ago about finding loving care in hard moments. And this is going to be the how-to with some examples. So you can find self-reflection prompts for this episode and every episode on our Instagram at Wholehearted Loving. And you can learn more about us and how to practice with us live on our website at wholeheartedloving.com. And before we get started, we'll do a body-based self-connection practice to connect with ourselves before each other and this podcast.
Okay. Well, we wanted to see if we could tie our body connection practice today with the theme of love and care. So perhaps, we'll have you imagine something for a moment first, and then we'll shift into the body connection practice. Imagine that you were offering some loving, kind touch to someone that you care about. Maybe they're going through a hard time or just having a hard day or just feeling a little disconnected. Just imagine what type of way you would offer care in terms of touch. Maybe there's many ways that come to mind. Maybe you have a favorite way that you like to offer comforting touch to others in your life. So just being with that question for a moment. I just have the visual of sitting with someone I care about, and they've sort of told me, or they're telling me about part of their day that's maybe hard, and I'm just visualizing myself placing a hand on their shoulder. Right? That might not be all of what I offer, but that for me, like with just how I'm wired, seems like something that I do quite instinctively. So that's what came to mind. So choosing what yours might be, and maybe you're like, I have no idea. And if you have no idea, that's okay. You can just choose any kind of touch. And what we're going to do is take that way of offering comfort and practice offering to ourselves in this moment, just to see how it might feel. So I can't really stand behind or beside me and offer touch to the back of my shoulder, but I could give touch to my shoulder in the way that I can reach. And I actually noticed this is really nice. It's so nice. And my body knows it's nice because it can take a deep breath. There's something about the amount of pressure that feels very comforting. My belly can expand a little bit more. So just tracking to see what your body response is to receiving this kind of touch from yourself. Whether you like it or you don't like it. And if you don't like it, I hope this is a reminder to change it, that you're allowed to change it into something more pleasant. And I'm hanging here a little bit longer because I'm sort of pleasantly surprised at how nice this feels. I have a hand sort of right on, what is it called, Steph? Is it like a ball of your shoulder? What's that? Like this part?
Oh, your rotator cuff.
Okay, that, which I notice I don't usually place my hand there. I usually place it sort of over here between neck and the rotator cuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a different feel for me to place it here. And what I also noticed is like I put my hand up here in this general area often to offer myself comfort. But I think there was something about first imagining me giving it to someone else and then giving it to myself that felt even better. I was like, oh, this is how I'd offer comfort to someone else. And oh, why not take a moment to do the same for myself? And there was something sweet about that.
Yeah. It's like the difference between, I identify a lot with what you're saying, this sort of self-massaging, like it's to do with, for me, like stress relief and relaxation, which is lovely and a different feeling than the feeling of comfort, right? The places where I put my hands on other people's bodies for comfort are not the same that I offer to myself. And I think it's because, I mean, if I'm offering myself comfort, it might be more of a hold where I am reaching these parts. So upper arm is something I'll often like caress in people who are having a hard time. And I think I get there if I'm actually in the middle of a hard time. But if it's just such a different feeling, relief, self-massage versus comfort.
Yes. So right now, like I'm offering myself like this cross body hold, sort of like a hug. And then listening to you talk, I'm like, oh, I wonder what it's like. Because if I hug someone or if I touch someone on the arm, I might just place my hand there, but I might sort of add a gentle sort of up and down sort of movement to my touch. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I normally do that for myself that often. So it's just neat to notice that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's more of a being with. I mean, I think you and I spend a whole lot of time being with ourselves and our feelings and our thoughts. But this is a different, like I really want to emphasize the difference between this massaging my own neck and just putting a comforting hand on my shoulders. Such a different feeling.
Yeah. And what's neat is years ago, I learned this. If you ever have the opportunity to practice with someone who you trust, it's a certain hold. And actually, it's a deliberate hold that adds pressure to the side of the arm. And I don't know if there's some scientific reason for that particular spot or if it's an acupuncture point or a meridian or something. But I think you're right that there's something about pressure to the arm that offers a certain kind of comfort, right? Just as for me, something about when a friend places a hand on my back, that feels very supportive.
Yeah. That being with feeling instead of a movement that's like trying to change something or address a problem or fix something or feel nice. It's just being with.
Yes. And maybe that's really why I like sort of hand on upper chest so much too. So our hands can, like you said, offer comfort in a lot of ways where the hand moves and it offers some type of touch that feels soothing. But I enjoy the like having it be still, just feeling its presence.
Yeah.
Because for me, that really represents the being with. Like there's a sturdy, warm presence with me and my body right now.
Yeah.
In this case, I'm giving it to myself, right? Sometimes it's a friend giving it to me.
Yeah. And it really does help. You know, I thought I needed all these things from other people. And I was like, oh, fine, I'll give it to myself. Oh, look, it actually works.
Yeah. And this isn't about, well, then in that case, I don't need anybody else. It's
right.
To have it also as an extra option where we begin to not feel like we're dependent on other people in the sense of the only source of comfort I can get is from somebody else, right? Because when we believe that to be true, it leaves us really feeling, I think, vulnerable and helpless because none of the sense of support, we don't feel we have agency over when and how and if we get to experience that feeling.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to grow that experience for ourselves and know how to source it from other people.
Yeah. So how to experience loving care in hard moments.
I'm excited. So, Stephanie, do you want to be the guinea pig?
Always.
Always. Okay. I didn't pre-ask you, so I just sort of thought maybe we'll do it that way.
Great.
Yeah, so can we just like fly by the seat of our pants and see what happens?
Always.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm going to share with everyone listening an example of a question that we could ask ourselves or our friends or people we care about when we want to help either ourselves or other people have a fuller experience of what happened for us during hard times. So in this case, we're sort of reflecting on a time that we've already come through. We made it through. We know we're okay, right? That hard thing is finished, or like the hardest part of the hard thing we've already gotten through, right? So we're not in the middle of a trauma or a hard situation right now in this reflection. All right?
Yes.
Okay. So, Steph, can you maybe first just notice the chair that you're sitting on, how it feels to feel support either behind or underneath you? And I'm curious if you can bring to mind a time in your life, and it doesn't have to be like a 10 out of 10 hard time, a time in your life that was challenging, and now you have evidence that it's finished, it's over, you made it through that time. And you just bring that to mind, like just a short dip into it.
Yep.
Yeah, you got something in mind?
I do.
Okay. So we're not going to hang in that for too long. We're actually going to orient to in the time after that initial moment or day or whatever. When did you start noticing kindness and care around you? Was there a moment since that event, right? And then the aftermath of that event that you can go back and notice, oh yeah, there was some love and care or support present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first thing, so the event,
Can we actually, before you go in, can we for a moment hold on to any description about the event? Because I would like to circle back to it, but can we, if it's okay, if you just shared what the love and support or care was that you're present to, like when you reflect back?
dog kisses.
Oh, so as you think of dog kisses right now, that during a hard time for you or in the aftermath of a hard time, there were dog kisses present. Just taking a moment to notice how that feels in the body. What do you notice happening there?
A few things. I can summon the sensation of dog kisses and sweet little stinky dog breath, and them.
And does that feel good for you or not good?
Feels wonderful.
Okay.
And I can feel that, like looking for some kind of relief, after an incident, like, oh my God, let me hold this dog and snuggle and co-regulate with this dog. And then I also notice that I didn't feel appreciation for that. It was more of a desperate, I need this feeling at the time. And now thinking back on it, it feels lovely in a much more fulsome way.
I love that realization, not from the standpoint of shoulding ourselves. I should have felt more grateful for it then, or should have enjoyed it more, or whatever, right? We're really looking at now when I reflect back on the fact that this love and care and support was present in the form of dog kisses. How do I feel in my body right in this moment connecting to that?
So nice.
So nice. I see the smile on your face.
Yeah.
Right. And if we explore a little bit more around maybe that same hardship. Were there other signs of love and care available and present to you?
Yes.
What is even that like? that sounds like a yes that has a lot of layers and flavors to it.
It does, because I think that was one of the first times where I recognized, I am having, like, this is painful. I'm having a hard time. I'm not inured to it. It's here. And I need to extend beyond myself for some support. And I had women's group at that time. So I had a whole WhatsApp group of people who I could be like, this is what's happening, help. I also that day had women's group in person. And it was one of the first times that I was having a hard experience. And instead of kind of holding up, I was like, I need to go there. I need to go to this group and be held,
Right. So it seems like something was happening in your body, just recognizing, yes, I had a WhatsApp group and I had like an in-person group I could go to.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we were to sort of just track, maybe go back to the yes a little bit, like, what do you notice in the body what happens when you connect to? I had a WhatsApp group that I was free to post anything in there and people would be there for me. What happens in the body just knowing that?
Like relief. It's like the description sensation I'm getting is like being on a soft, firm mattress instead of like a sinking mattress where you can't really keep yourself up.
Nice. Yeah. Right. So notice what it feels like to be on that kind of mattress. Soft and firm. Yeah. And then when we presence to, I also had an in-person group that I could walk into. I could plop down on the floor, get cozy, and speak or not speak, but I could be supported. What is it like in the body to be present to that, knowing that was there for you at that time?
I feel like sparkly, excited feelings in my torso.
Yeah. And I'm assuming, just by how your face lit up, that these are pleasant feelings, like enjoyable feelings.
Yes.
Yes. So we didn't even get, like, we're not talking about big, huge, extreme acts of kindness that people were showing you. This is just being present to, like, a dog giving you kisses and people available to you. We haven't even talked about, like, what anybody specifically did for you. Right? And we haven't talked about someone actively fixing a problem for you. Just in reflecting on, there was love and care present for me at that time. And seeing how it feels in the body, you had at least three separate moments right now of feeling something pleasant in your body. Right? And I'm curious, like, if we had not chosen to, like, if I had not chosen to ask you this specific question or this thing to orient to around that time of hardship, like if I would have said, tell me about a hard time that you had, like, what do you think you would have generally oriented to in that story?
Well, I think that I started trying to orient that way by giving you details of the story. And that would not have felt as good or as, like, clean is the word I want to use. This was just a focus on the nice feelings.
Yeah.
And then that makes me think of negatively and positively charged ions, and a positive and a negative together make a negative. A positive and a positive make a positive. I think I have a big tendency to want to explain the details.
Yeah.
And in this moment, that would not have been helpful for nice feelings.
Right. So it's it's like really neat to notice there's nothing wrong with talking about what happened in the event, right? Sometimes it's necessary and even very healing to be able to share with someone what happened. It's just that most of us have a lot of practice doing that already.
Yeah.
Right. And even if we have that protective pattern in place of I've got to deal with it myself, we're used to rerunning and replaying the hard parts of what happened to ourselves in our minds.
Yeah.
Right. The part that we're not as skilled and experienced in is dipping into, well, what was supportive and what was loving and caring during that time? Right. It doesn't even have to be right at that moment of the event, but in the aftermath, in the time after that, until even present day, what kind of love and care and support have I been able to experience? Or even, I think we sort of differentiated between this in past episode, like, what do I see now was available to me, even if I wasn't able to take it in?
Yeah.
What is it like to know that there was a kind person standing there? Right.
And to hang out in that feeling for a minute.
Hang out in that feeling for a minute. And that's sort of what we did. Like, we just hung out in the feeling of what is it like to know that those dog kisses were there.
Yeah.
Like, there's no dog in sight right now that I see on your screen.
Nope.
But you got to have a good feeling moment because you went back to that time.
Yeah.
And so what one sort of, I think, byproduct of growing this practice is eventually when you look back at things we've gone through that were maybe hard and not the easiest times, something maybe sometimes they're so hard that you don't wish them on, the person you can't stand the most. But now when you look back, it has a little softer edge to it. It has maybe something shinier to it than just the bad and hard parts.
A fuller picture, right?
Fuller picture. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think this is the magic nugget, like the magic feeling nugget, for really being with your experience. I think we spoke last week about what I called the gratitude bypass of taking the hard time, taking the lesson, appreciating the lesson, moving on. And this adds such a beautiful dimension of being with and expanding the story. It might be rewriting the story, but it's expanding the story and looking at different angles. And this has such a beautiful unfolding as well into life beyond just memories of hard times.
Right? Yeah. And like, I feel like even if you're not wanting to expand the story to create something more full, even if you just want to feel more pleasant for a moment, isn't that a nice way to know that, hey, I have access to feeling more pleasant? Just by reflecting back on a time when there was love and care available to me, all of a sudden my body feels different for a couple breaths. That's sort of nice.
It is. So sweet. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I imagine that even just now, as you were sort of feeling some of the nice feelings, reflecting back on that, you probably got a little bit more resourced just now to do whatever you need to do later. That might be mundane, boring, a little bit hard, a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
At least more so than if you didn't have those 3 moments.
Right.
Like, they couldn't have hurt you.
Yeah. This is like a nice reward system also that I'm thinking of for myself. Like, instead of like, oh, you did whatever challenging thing and reward yourself with, I don't know, whatever, ice cream. Like, I could reward myself with moments of pleasant memories and nice feelings.
Yes. Typically we punish ourselves with moments of not nice memories, right?
Yeah.
What would it be like to sprinkle in a few pleasant memories throughout the day and feel that in the body?
I wonder how that sounds to listeners. Like, I can imagine my old self would have been like, you dorks, you sweet little dorks. Like, that's not possible. And now I'm like, let's spread this to the world. We can all have nice thoughts sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Right? I I love we just had a priming call this morning. And that's what we practice doing with someone, with the whole group, but with someone's share. Right? How is it to pull out a glimmer within something that's hard and just hang with that for a moment, even if, right? Like right now, you could quite easily be like, I feel the dog kisses, right? But sometimes it's not that cut and dry. It's not that simple. It's not that clean, right? It's like, well, part of me sort of remembers dog kisses, but then I also remember this hard thing, right? And in our call today, we got to play with that. What happens when, yes, there's a glimmer I can connect to, and also there's this other heaviness that's present. And my programming sort of pulls me to orient to that heavier thing more often. And it was such a lovely unfolding to practice in the group that way of, let's let that be there. Let's let that heavy, familiar, darker voice be there. And let's check, is there a tiny bit that can also connect to hopefulness or lightness or a sense of pride or a sense of, I did the thing. And this person was like, yes, I can feel part of that. And then eventually they oriented to, I feel light, I feel open. And also, I still hear that voice that's telling me all those, jabbery thoughts. And how cool was that, right? Have you ever, we chatted about, have you ever experienced that where you still hear the voices? They're not totally gone. And you could connect to a feeling of lightness and openness because you could tap into a little bit of that, oh, I did it, I'm doing it feeling. How cool is that?
Much fuller picture of what's going on. It's so good. Yeah. It's inspiring.
Right? When I feel like especially on group calls, because I think so many of us don't have safe places for us to really share ourselves and what's real in our lives and what's hard to face and what we're going through, that we many of us have a need to have a place where we can talk about the hard things. Right. And it's not that we can't talk about hard things in our priming calls. We do. It's just that we slow it down a bit. We slow it down a bit so that we can be with the hard thing in the body a bit and then be with the thing that feels less hard for a bit. And learn to look for the thing that's less hard, learn to look for the glimmer and feel the glimmer and then touch back into the thing that's hard. Right. So I feel like it's practicing how to feel the bigger picture instead of reliving how to feel like I'm hit by a train and then sucked into this thing by the thing that's hard over and over and over again.
Yeah. Growing new glimmer muscles. I like it.
Well, do you have more to say on that, or do you want to try a different example?
Well, I think a nice, just simple example like that is probably really helpful. Is there anything else you wanted to say or examples you wanted to share?
I wrote down an example. Let me take a look. Okay. I have 2 sweet examples. Can I share them quickly?
Yeah, please.
Yeah? Okay. And it's interesting to notice that I have this I have 2 sweet examples. When I really look at the notes about what the hard thing was, one says heart attack. One says marriage and soul dying.
Right. You got a couple of sweet things.
Hard things, right?
Yeah.
And just as we're talking about hard things, I want to highlight, I didn't ask you about your heart event. Do you want to share about your heart event?
Not at all.
You can. Not at all. Okay.
No.
So yeah, this was not about let's eviscerate that from Steph's memory or take that away. It was just, we already have lots of practice going there. Yeah. What would it be like to hang out in a different place for a while? And if you felt the need still to go and talk more about that, that's totally okay. But it's just a new pathway.
When it happened, I felt the need to talk about it all the time, constantly. Mm-hmm. I feel pulled to just let people know because I don't like to be left hanging. It was a gross breakup. It was, but the details are just, who cares?
Yeah. Okay. So, let's go with my example. So I don't really need to say more than heart attack. It was, anyways, the person's fine, but it was the father of my kids. And my kids were very young at the time. They were 6 and 4 or something. And I'll just give you a one-liner event heading, which is I was at my limit and I just lost my mind on the kids that morning. And for me, like, really what that meant was I think maybe I yelled or something. And actually, I think I might have thrown a cucumber across the room, but like not at a child.
That means you were making a smoothie at the same time. I'm pretty sure.
So anyways, it was a hard morning. It was a hard time in life. It was a hard morning. And when I sit for a moment on like, what were some acts of care and kindness that were present? I have my eyes closed if you're watching on video. And it's because for me, closing my eyes sometimes helps me get out of my head and really into more of a feeling space. So I'm going to describe a moment of love and care, which is I walked into preschool to bring my youngest to preschool. And I was still feeling all the emotion of feeling overwhelmed and feeling also and believing in my mind, like that was a bad mom moment. Like I feel bad that my kid now has that memory imprinted in his mind and has to sit with that, for 2.5 hours at preschool. And that's even a lived experience of his. Like my guilty mom part was feeling it big time. So, I gave him extra snuggles before I left. And as I was leaving preschool, this is the moment of love and care. I said to the teacher, could you please remind him that mommy loves him, right? And she just looked at me and I feel teary even now bringing it back. And I don't know if she was facing me. I don't know if she put her hands gently on my shoulders and my arms. I feel like maybe she did. We had that kind of rapport. And she just looked at me straight in the eye. And she said, he knows. He knows. Like, I will tell him again, but he knows. And it's okay to have a hard day. And like, just thinking about that today, I just think, oh, like, what a gift that was in that moment to hear that from another mom.
You want to take a minute and just feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to have someone see your humanness, Yeah. And like presencing too, she was there. She was there with such kind eyes. Right? When I think about her kind eyes, I feel like a softening in my torso.
Yeah.
I can breathe a little bit more deeply. When I think about her sort of gentle yet firm touch on my arms, it's like, oh, like I take a deeper breath. And almost like I can sink in a little bit more. And then when I bring myself back to like what I heard her say, right? Like he knows that you love him. That's when the big sigh of relief comes, like, okay, he knows, right?
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And this was like 8 years ago. It's a long time. I'm going back right now to a moment of love and care that was given to me 8 years ago. I don't even know if she would remember it at this point. But now I'm like, oh, I really want to go tell her and remind her that moment made a difference in my life. Right? But like how sweet to take a moment, like a period of my life that was super hard, a moment where I was hard on myself. And then 8 years later, be able to bring back the memory of there was love and care there in that moment of like feeling so vulnerable as a mom that day. And in my body today, I can feel my body go and start to settle. just coming back to the image of like seeing her face, going back to the sensation of feeling her touch, going back to like the auditory like experience of hearing those words and her tone, her reassuring tone. Like they all create this softening in the front of my body.
What a different experience than reliving that memory without that detail.
Yeah. Right? Because I could relive it as I yelled, I threw the cucumber, I felt like a crappy mom. My kids looked terrified. And
The
like
end.
stop at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm a happy mom some more.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of us are conditioned to do that. That's our habit pattern. That's what we saw our parents do, whether they were hard on themselves or also hard on us by helping us, training us, conditioning us to relive only the hard part.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. As if that helps us not have hard times in the future, right? Like we can protect ourselves by rehashing all of the unpleasantness in order to avoid it. But we know that doesn't really work. So we can add this tidbit in and revisit moments and be with new moments.
Yeah. And like this thought didn't cross my mind as we were thinking about the topic of this for this episode. But what I'm noticing now is even presencing to that moment of love and care and support from 8 years ago. It reminds me today, when you have another hard moment in your life, just tell someone about it. Because that felt so good and needed that day. To just not walk out of that preschool and drop him off and carry that and hold that myself. Like my old self would have carried that and sat with that myself forever and probably never told anyone about it.
Yeah.
Right. But at that time, the very least I knew was like, and it came from a please take care of my kid place, not so much of a help me, but the help me was the bonus that I got that I didn't know I needed. Yeah. But like when I reflect on it now, I'm like, oh, right. I didn't know I needed that at the time. Let's remember that the next time you have a hard time, tell somebody, right? Tell someone that you trust, that you care about, someone that you have at least some sense of they're not going to be a jerk.
Yeah.
Right? Because probably something really sweet or needed will come out of that moment.
Yeah. I think I'm now skilled at seeking support when I need it. And this idea adds a new dimension for me where if I'm in a difficult situation that I know is gearing up to become a memory, I might add some new bits to it. You know, like this is a hard time I'm experiencing. I'd like to seek out some loving support so that I can include that in the memory I'm making right now.
Mm. That's sweet. It's like proactive creation of life for yourself.
Yeah.
It's
Which
like,
is really what this is all about.
Yeah, I don't want to only leave this moment with a hard memory, right? And it doesn't mean I'm dismissing it. It's like I would like to add something else to this moment, this experience for myself.
Curating. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. I like it.
Thanks, Chi-Chi.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is something you can walk yourself through. You could walk a friend through. You could do it together. Just reflecting on, in the aftermath of a hard time, when did I notice some form of love and support and care?
So sweet. Yeah.
And like,
if you've got someone to share it with, like, tell this story to yourself for sure. And if there's someone that you can exchange these stories with, that just adds another dimension of loveliness.
Mm-hmm. This is something that we built into our women's groups, and by nature, something that gets to happen during our priming calls. But if you don't have that set up in your life, or you don't have that set up in your life right now, really the essence of it is asking someone in your life who you trust to say, can I share something with you? And could you just sit with me? Be with me in it.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't necessarily need anything, like, or not that you don't need anything, but can we just start with that? Can we just start with me saying the thing and being witnessed and sharing? And then after that point, or during that point, during that experience, we can see if there's something that I need that feels good to receive or good to ask for. Right. But for a lot of us, just having another human being physically with us or energetically with us while we tell them about something that's hard, like that in itself is a reparative experience, because many of us either actually had to or believed we had to sit with hard stuff by ourselves and not tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks, Gigi.
Cool.
So sweet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a closing practice in mind?
Let's imagine, for you, it might be dog kisses. Imagine something that feels caring and supportive that someone could offer you. You might even get as detailed as imagining who it might be, but you could also be as vague as, I'm just imagining, that someone is offering me a reassuring smile. And
it's a dog. I'm still imagining a dog. A reassuring smile. Yeah.
So Stephanie likes dogs. That's the conclusion. But yeah, like, notice what it feels like in your body to imagine that someone is offering love and care and support to you in a way that's easy for you to receive and pleasant for you to receive. And just see what happens. And like, you hear me and maybe Steph saying this a lot, see what happens, notice. And sometimes I think people are looking for something big and drastic to happen, but we're actually, and they're looking for something good to happen. But that's not what the point of this is. The point is just what happens. And like, how subtle is the subtle that you can start noticing? Oh, like my belly just expanded there, for example. Like, that is what happened, right? So we're not looking for big, fancy things. Although sometimes we might experience a shift in the body that feels big or feels surprising or feels impactful. But really what we're trying to do is we're trying to link the brain connection to a thought or experience, and then the pathway of like, let me check in to see what happens in my body and like grow that noticing muscle.
Yeah.
It could be immediately when I think of dog kisses that I normally like, I actually feel a tight knot in my tummy. And it maybe doesn't make sense to you why. But that's all we're doing, is noticing when I think of this, when I bring this to mind, what do I notice happening in my body? If you can grow that muscle, a whole lot of stuff is going to change in your life. Like, you all of a sudden grew this superpower that a lot of other superpowers get to branch off of.
Yeah, that's the big fancy thing. One day you wake up, you've been hoping for a big fancy thing. You've been doing all these tiny little bits and maybe not understanding why. And then one day you wake up and you realize everything has changed. You have agency. You feel better.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! I did something funny before we pressed record when you asked me if I had like a body connection practice. And I don't know, you made some comment that it was cute or sweet or something. And like, what came to mind for me when you said that was like, wow, there would have been a time in my life, like 7 years ago, when we first met, where that would not have come freely out of my mouth. Like, it was so like tightened up, in terms of just being. I had all these like mental frameworks of how I should behave and how I should be around people, that whatever came out of my mouth earlier today would not have. And it felt really sweet to know that it did. And I didn't care what you thought or anyone else thought. It was just such a natural expression of the moment.
Yeah. Right. And for me to just be able to say that's so sweet is also an evolution, you know? At best, I might have been able to produce like cute aggression with some expletives and things in commentary about how cute you were being. And now it's just sweet and simple.
Yeah. Right. So the reason I bring this up is that, you know, connected to what you were saying, Steph, is it's subtle. You feel nothing. You wonder if any of this works. You think it's dumb. It feels awkward. And then one day you just notice yourself doing something that you're like, holy crap, like I would have never done that before. Right? I would have never let that happen. I would have never said that. I would have never, showed up that way. My mind would have never made that connection, and you surprise yourself. And it's a moment of realization and celebration of like, oh, these are the fruits of my labor. Like this more free way of life. It was like just in that moment that would have never happened before, operating under my old belief system and like with my body so dysregulated and me so disconnected from it. Right. So there's hope if you're in that place where you don't really know how any of this is going to make a difference. Right. Yet you have a part of you that's still hopeful or open to the idea that life could feel a little bit more easeful or a little bit better. This is your reminder, right? That it might not feel very reassuring along the way. And we guarantee you there's going to be a day, there's going to be a moment. If you want to keep practicing this stuff, there's going to be a moment one day that you surprise yourself like, holy crap, what just happened? Who am I? Who am I becoming? And things are going to feel a little bit more easeful. You're going to have a little bit more access to ease.
Yeah.
And then it just snowballs from there. Because good things snowball too, I want to add.
Hey, thank goodness.
Right? Yeah.
Thanks, Gigi.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's it for this week.
Yeah. I would have never done that before either, I don't think.
Cute. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. I hope it's been helpful. Please do like, follow, and subscribe. And if anything we've said here today has been helpful for you, please share with somebody that you care about. And we'll see you next time.